Just when it looked as if their season was entirely off the rails, the Philadelphia 76ers are showing some signs of light. Led by 43 points from Tyrese Maxey, a dominant victory over the Los Angeles Lakers, which marks 3 straight for this Sixers team. We're going to break down exactly what this means and why I think whatever funk that Tyrese Maxey was in to start this season is officially a thing of the past. Ryan, I'm going to throw it to you right off the bat here. Obviously, a 118-104 victory for this Sixers team. Tyrese Maxey leading the way with 43 points. Really had it going from start to finish. That Maxey and Gershon Yabusele combined for all 25 of the first quarter points for this Sixers team. But your number one takeaway from this game was what?
My number one takeaway, I think, is the way that this team has responded. I came on here a few days ago, or last week about now, after that Nuggets game, and I just flat out call out the Sixers for lack of effort and potentially have quit on their coach. And for the way the Sixers have responded since then, Nick Nurse talked about it post game after that Nuggets game. Basically, it was kind of unacceptable, the effort and the performance, the display that they had.
Yep.
And for them to bounce back now, a 3-game winning streak, and with a pretty dominant victory tonight. And you could say Anthony Davis was out for the Lakers. Paul George, though, was out for the Sixers. Joel Embiid was out for the Sixers. And the Sixers went out there and dominated from start to finish, and diving all over the floor for loose balls, guys hustling, a lot of transition points as well. It was a fun Sixers game, probably one of the funnest Sixers games of the season. So good to see this team, but now we're kind of back in that limbo of, do you trade off these guys, or do you look to acquire some pieces at the deadline?
Yeah, I don't think we're in that limbo anymore, to be honest. I think this is officially go for it season, and I think this team is giving you enough signs of life that you buy into that. I mean, like, when you think about threading the needle and the actual likelihood, like, to take a look at the standings again, this has always been sort of my concern with this plan. That, yes, the Sixers have been brutal, but as bad as they started the season, you're just not going to get worse than the Brooklyn Nets, the Washington Wizards, the Charlotte Hornets, the Utah Jazz, the Portland Trailblazers. There is a lot of bad basketball teams in the NBA, and while the Sixers have tried their best to be in that mix, they're just kind of not. And they have these performances like tonight, which kind of prove that. And to kind of highlight a couple other guys, Justin Edwards, man. We're talking about a dude who this time a month ago was a full-scale G League player, really getting no sort of NBA opportunity. He was guarding LeBron James tonight, and not only just that, but holding his own, knocking down three-pointers on that end. Ricky Council IV responding to getting sent down to the G League with a little I'm too good for that performance. After dropping 29 points in that G League game, comes out here and drops 16 points at the NBA level tonight, knocking down 3 3-pointers, also adding 7 rebounds. And Kelly Oubre, man. Kelly Oubre has been an unsung hero for the Sixers team, really from start to finish this season. I give him a ton of credit for embracing just doing the dirty work for this team and finding his identity, that his commitment to the boards. He had 25 rebounds over the past 2 games, added 8 more today, 20 points with it. He's been excellent for this Sixers team, so I think there's enough there. And do you still think there's a chance they slip into more of this seller mode, or do you think that they are beginning to go for it this year?
It's hard because they can get you to kind of buy in here and just say Embiid's back by the weekend. He goes out there, plays 2 games, and then he could be out for another week. Like,
Sure.
it's such an up and down roller coaster of the Sixers team, but kind of goes back to what you were saying, where there's so many bad teams. And I thought the Sixers after last week were kind of getting lumped in to that category, just because I thought they kind of quit on the team and quit on the season a bit. And they were starting to hear some of the whispers. And even yesterday, there was a rumor about Yabusele. And we've talked about it many times. They have some expiring contracts that are some attractive role players. Kelly Oubre and Yabusele, I think, are the 2 players I've came on this channel and talked about the most this season. And I've loved Kelly Oubre. He's been by far my favorite Sixer to watch this year. And just watching that game tonight, it's like, you would really, really hate to see them go. I could understand from just a franchise perspective why they could potentially look to do that.
Sure.
But Yabu and Kelly, they've really been, I feel like, the heart and soul of this team this year. They've been what's made the Sixers team like bearable to watch on some nights. And for them to go out there tonight combined for 34 points, it's just been awesome to see their growth and development, and gives you just reason to believe in optimism if Embiid's able to return like that. It looks like a very competent team around the big man.
Yeah, I mean, Yabusele tonight, man. We're talking about, like, dunking it down, calling Anthony Davis too small. He's just the absolute man. And I get, like, I'm not saying, obviously, we never know what those conversations are behind the scenes and what those specific offers that you're turning down or being offered are. And there is a world where if one of those flies across Daryl Morey's desk, that I would get it, that I would understand making the right trade. But where my focus, I guess, has shifted is I'm not kind of in the boat of, like, I'm not just selling to sell. Like, I think a lot of the conversations about these trades with Kelly Oubre, with with Yabusele. The motivation behind it is clearly to give yourself a better chance at getting that draft pick, to get worse, essentially. You're trading it
Yep.
for the benefit of getting off them so your team is worse. I'm not in that business. And one of the reasons that I'm kind of have really come to hard on this conclusion here, Tyrese Maxey, to me, has been different for most of this year. We've seen him complaining to refs. We've seen the personality. This last stretch of basketball is really the first time that I've seen him play with joy all season. And that's important, man. Like, I get that's a throwaway thing, but when you think about Tyrese Maxey as a human being, as a basketball player, that is a part of his identity. And I think if you start to spiral down this just losing culture or embracing the tank in that way, you risk losing that for a guy that you really can't. We're still talking about this guy, 24 years old, and to kind of reflect on his full stats on the season, he's up to 26.6 points per game, 6.0 assists. We're starting to see those percentages creep up to 33.9% from three. I'm still very confident that number is going to continue to rise. 43.2% from the floor. We're talking about 11 consecutive games with 28 plus points. There is the stat there. What are you seeing from Maxey specifically that has changed over this recent stretch of play, and how important is that to this team?
Yeah, I think I've been a little critical of Maxey this year. I'm not going to say a little too critical, but when you look at a lot of the games, like, sure, he has good numbers. He'll have 28 and 8 or something, but a lot of the times it's in losing efforts, and a lot of these games haven't really been close. Obviously, someone's got to put up points, and with the volume of shots that he's been asked to take for the Sixers team this year, he's going to, perform well, it looks like, in the box score. But watching the game it kind of goes back to he hasn't looked great at times. But this recent stretch of play, he's been awesome. And I said it to the guy I was watching the game with, and I was like, when Tyrese Maxey gets the ball and is going downhill, I think he's the toughest guard in the NBA to stop. Just his first step, his quickness, getting to the rim. And even tonight, he was able to keep defenders honest. He had a few impressive kind of step back, deep
Yeah.
parking lot type of threes. And just, as you said, kind of going out there and playing with that confidence. Do I still think that he's a potential like 1A option? No. I think he'll always kind of need that next guy next to him or in front of him. But you can't really nitpick too much about a 43-point performance and a dominating kind of wire to wire win tonight. So Maxey's been awesome. Hopefully it looks like he's turning the corner and getting back to kind of his old self and getting back into that what we've seen year after year, and that's taking like a next step, taking a next step. And he's going to be asked to do that and needed to do that with the continued health concerns of Paul George and Joel Embiid if this team's going to make a playoff push.
Yeah, no, 100% there. And to be honest, I thought tonight was the most he's had it going all year. Just the way that, like, he was getting whatever he wanted. Whatever spot that he wanted to get to, he was finding a way. Did a really nice job attacking the bodies of opponents. And I think that's a really unique way that he creates separation. That it's very much a clear dribble into a guy and then kind of use that to create separation. It's really effective. And the first step is always going to kind of be his calling card as a player, rightfully so. Feels like the finishing around the rim is starting to return to normal. Strangely, that's been a weakness for him on the year, which really, when you look at the larger scale of his career, that's been one of his better assets as a basketball player. So nice to see a little bit of that returning back. And I overall think we're all a little bit too critical on him not being a 1A guy. Like, there's a very, very, very small amount of human beings on this earth that are capable of being the guy on a really good basketball team. If Tyrese Maxey never becomes that, that's completely respectable. This dude's a legitimate all-star guard. And, like, again, there's just not that many options of guys who can fill those shoes. We also got a little bit of look of Bronny James on the floor tonight, Ryan Coyle. So any thoughts on the game from Bronny out there?
I thought it was funny. Bona had that swat, and JJ basically said, "All right, come out to take your butt and put it on the end of the bench again."
Yeah.
But kind of all I got to say about that.
Our guy Adembona blocked 2 generations of James tonight.
Yeah, that's some funny stuff. But yeah, anytime, I still think it's a cool story, but it's still looking like a situation of just like, all right, dude, like when are we gonna kind of move past this, at least for this season? Who knows? But you know, you know, and
Uh-oh. Yeah, and I think we're losing Ryan a little bit here. We'll wrap this one up at the end, but I will say, like, for Bronny specifically, obviously tearing it up at the G League. My first thought when he came in for first quarter minutes tonight, man, I was like, oh wow, this is a disrespectful. This Sixers team really is cooked. But and I will say, when we saw him on the floor, Not a very convincing performance from Bronny James today. Was not impressed with what we got out there. It is what it is to this point, but the bottom line is we should take this as a huge victory for the Sixers team. You got to keep producing results. And one more time to take a peek at the standings here, that the Sixers are now one game out of that last play-in seed for that 10 spot there behind the Chicago Bulls. Still over 40 games to go. There's a lot of basketball still to be played, or right around 40 to this point. So don't wave the white flag on the season just yet. We're starting to see a pulse. Even though this team looked dead for a stretch of time, I'm beginning to be encouraged by their play. So we'll see what happens from here, but me and Ryan are going to be breaking things down from start to finish right here on Sixers Digest. So appreciate each and every one of you guys for rocking with us. If you have not already, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button, dropping a like on this video here. We'll be back talking with you next time. Peace.